Two, stop what you're doing right now, because what I'm about to share with you could be the most important 4 minutes of health information you'll hear this year. I say that not to be dramatic, but because most doctors, including many oncologists, are still not telling their patients over 50 about this. Not because they don't know, but because it doesn't come in a pill bottle. I'm Dr. William Lai, vascular biologist, cancer researcher, and author, and I've spent over 25 years studying what actually prevents cancer at the cellular level. What I found, confirmed by a landmark 2022 study from Harvard's T.H. Chan School of Public Health, following over 116,000 adults for 28 years, is that one specific category of daily habits reduces overall cancer risk by up to 61% in adults over 50. That's not a supplement. That's not chemotherapy. That's lifestyle. Today, I'm going to break down the 5 most powerful components of that habit, ranked from helpful to absolutely transformational, so that by the end of this, you'll know exactly what to start doing tomorrow morning. I want to tease something right now. Number 1 on this list is something 90% of people over 60 are doing completely wrong, and the science suggests that fixing it could cut your cancer risk nearly in half on its own. So do not skip ahead. The order matters. Each habit builds on the last. The 5th habit is something almost everyone dismisses as too simple to be serious, and that dismissal may be costing people their lives. I'm talking about cold water hydration, specifically drinking 16 to 20 ounces of cold or room temperature filtered water first thing in the morning, before coffee, before food, before you look at your phone. The mechanism behind this is fascinating and deeply relevant to aging biology. After the age of 55, something called interoceptive thirst sensitivity declines, a medical way of saying your brain gets worse at telling you when you're thirsty. A 2019 study from the University of Barcelona found that adults over 60 are chronically operating at 8 to 12% below optimal cellular hydration without ever feeling thirsty. Why does that matter for cancer? Because your lymphatic system, think of it like the body's internal garbage truck, collecting cellular waste and damaged DNA fragments, runs almost entirely on water. When you're dehydrated, that garbage truck slows down. Damaged cells accumulate, inflammation rises, and chronic low-grade inflammation is now understood to be one of the primary drivers of cancer initiation, particularly colorectal, bladder, and kidney cancers. The Harvard Nurses' Health Study found that women who drank more than 5 glasses of water daily had a 45% lower risk of colon cancer compared to those who drank 2 or fewer. For aging bodies specifically, hydration also supports what researchers call autophagy, your cell's self-cleaning process. Think of autophagy like a quality control inspector inside each cell, breaking down damaged components before they can mutate. After 65, autophagy efficiency drops by about 30%, but proper hydration has been shown to partially restore that function. To do this right, keep a 20-ounce glass of filtered water on your nightstand and drink it all the moment your feet hit the floor. Add a squeeze of fresh lemon if you like, because the delamanine in lemon peel has its own anti-tumor properties. Pair your morning hydration with 10 minutes of light movement, even just walking around the house, because movement stimulates lymphatic flow and compounds the cellular cleansing effect by up to 40%. According to research from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden, the 4th habit is a food eaten for thousands of years across the world's longest living populations, dismissed for decades by Western medicine, and now the subject of over 1,200 peer-reviewed studies on cancer prevention. I'm talking about fermented foods, specifically naturally fermented options like plain yogurt, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, and miso. In 2021, a groundbreaking study from Stanford University School of Medicine, published in the journal Cell, found that adults who consumed high-fiber, high-fermented food diets showed dramatically increased microbiome diversity and a measurable decrease in 19 specific inflammatory proteins, several of which are directly associated with cancer progression. This is especially critical for people over 50 because after the age of 60, intestinal permeability increases, your gut lining literally becomes more porous. This allows bacterial toxins called lipopolysaccharides to enter your bloodstream, triggering systemic inflammation that can act like fertilizer for precancerous cells. I had a patient, Margaret, 67 years old, from Asheville, North Carolina, who came to me with chronically elevated inflammatory markers, fatigue, and a strong family history of colorectal cancer. Her diet was quite healthy in most respects, but she had 0 fermented foods. We added 2 servings daily morning kefir and a small side of sauerkraut at lunch. Within 90 days, her CRP levels, that's C-reactive protein, a key inflammation marker, dropped by 38%. Her gastroenterologist was floored. The mechanism works through something called short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate, which is produced when beneficial gut bacteria ferment fiber. Butyrate literally signals precancerous cells in the colon to undergo apoptosis. It tells them to die before they can cause harm. Think of it like a security guard who quietly escorts the troublemakers out before any damage is done. Aim for 1 to 2 servings of naturally fermented food per day, and make sure they're not pasteurized because the heating process kills the live cultures you need. Pair fermented foods with prebiotic-rich foods like garlic, leeks, or slightly underripe bananas. Because prebiotics feed the beneficial bacteria the fermented foods introduce, compounding the effect dramatically. The third, 2. Habit is something you've almost certainly heard of, but I promise you haven't heard it explained like this. I'm talking about daily walking, but not just any walking. I'm talking about what researchers now call metabolic walking, and the difference between regular strolling and metabolic walking could literally be the difference between feeding cancer and starving it. Your body runs on 2 primary fuel systems, glucose and oxygen. Cancer cells, due to a quirk in their metabolism first described by biochemist Otto Warburg in 1931 and confirmed by hundreds of subsequent studies, are almost exclusively dependent on glucose. They're actually quite poor at using oxygen for energy. This means that when you engage in sustained, moderate intensity physical activity, the kind that elevates your heart rate to 55 to 70% of your maximum, you do 2 remarkable things simultaneously. You deplete circulating glucose, starving cancer cells of their preferred fuel, and you flood your tissues with 2. Oxygenated blood, creating an environment actively hostile to cancer cell survival. A 2020 meta-analysis from the American Cancer Society reviewed data from 1.4 million adults and found that regular moderate physical activity was associated with a 42% reduction in colon cancer risk, a 38% reduction in breast cancer risk, and a 27% reduction in lung cancer risk, even in non-smokers. After the age of 65, your mitochondria, the tiny power generators inside your cells, decline in both number and efficiency by up to 35%. Mitochondrial dysfunction is now understood to be a key driver of both aging and cancer progression. Sustained moderate walking is one of the only interventions proven to stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis, meaning it literally signals your body to create new healthy mitochondria. Metabolic walking means 30 to 45 minutes of continuous walking at a pace where you can still hold a conversation, but would find it slightly difficult to sing at least 5 days per week, ideally. 2. In the morning before your first full meal, because fasted movement amplifies the glucose depleting effect significantly. I want to tell you about Robert, 72, from Portland, Oregon, a retired teacher who came to me 3 years ago following a cancer scare. A precancerous polyp removed during routine colonoscopy. He wasn't exercising at all. We started him on a morning walking protocol, 35 minutes 5 days a week, combined with dietary changes. At his 2-year follow-up colonoscopy, nothing. Clean. His oncologist specifically noted his dramatically improved inflammatory markers and called his recovery exceptional. Robert told me walking felt like a form of medicine. He was right, it literally is. For the best results, pair your morning walk with your morning hydration, and if possible, walk somewhere with natural light because morning sunlight exposure regulates your circadian rhythm, which governs immune surveillance, your body's cancer detection system. The second habit involves a compound found in a very specific category of vegetables, and the research on its cancer-fighting mechanism in adults over 50 is some of the most compelling science I've encountered in 25 years of research. I'm talking about sulforaphane, the powerful bioactive compound found in cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, cabbage, and most potently, broccoli sprouts. In 2018, researchers at Johns Hopkins University published findings showing that sulforaphane activates a master genetic switch called NRF2. Think of NRF2 like the head of security for your DNA. When activated, it triggers over 200 protective genes simultaneously, genes involved in detoxification, antioxidant defense, and critically, the repair of damaged DNA before it can mutate into cancer. Here's the aging-specific tragedy that makes this so urgent. NRF2 activity declines by approximately 40% between the ages of 50 and 70. Your DNA repair system is quietly shutting down. Sulforaphane, essentially, wakes it back up. A landmark study from the University of Illinois found that regular consumption of sulforaphane-rich foods was associated with a 52% reduction in bladder cancer risk and a 41% reduction in prostate cancer incidence. And perhaps most remarkably, a study from the Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center found that sulforaphane actually targets cancer stem cells, the particularly dangerous cells that conventional chemotherapy often fails to eliminate and that are responsible for cancer recurrence. Think of cancer stem cells as the generals of an army. You can wipe out the soldiers, but if the generals survive, they'll rebuild. Sulforaphane goes after the generals. Most people get the preparation completely wrong. Sulforaphane isn't present in broccoli in its active form. It's created through a chemical reaction when you chew or chop the vegetable, activating an enzyme called myrosinase. Cooking above 140 degrees Fahrenheit destroys myrosinase, which means fully cooked. Broccoli delivers very little active sulforaphane. The optimal method is to chop or lightly crush your broccoli and let it sit for 40 minutes before consuming, or lightly steaming for no more than 3 to 4 minutes. Raw broccoli sprouts require no cooking and deliver up to 50 times more sulforaphane per gram than mature florets. Aim for half a cup of raw broccoli sprouts daily or 1 full cup of lightly prepared broccoli. Pair your cruciferous vegetables with a small amount of raw mustard seed powder or raw radish, both independently rich in active myrosinase, which can increase sulforaphane bioavailability by up to 4-fold according to research from the Institute of Food Research in Norwich. And now, the single most impactful daily habit for cancer prevention after 50, the one the research has been quietly building toward and that most preventive health conversations never reach. That habit is sleep. But not just sleep, specifically what researchers now call oncological sleep. Architecture, meaning the specific quality and timing of sleep that activates your body's most powerful anti-cancer system. And the data on what happens to cancer risk when this system is disrupted is frankly alarming. During deep slow-wave sleep stage 3 and stage 4, your brain activates the glymphatic system, a recently discovered waste clearance network first described by researchers at the University of Rochester in 2013 that uses cerebrospinal fluid to literally flush toxic proteins and cellular debris from your brain and nervous system. Think of it like a power wash cycle that only runs at night when the factory is closed. But the cancer connection goes far deeper than brain health. During those same deep sleep phases, your body produces its highest concentrations of melatonin, not just the sleep hormone, but one of the most powerful endogenous antioxidants known to science. A comprehensive review published in the journal Cancer Research in 2021 found that melatonin, directly inhibits tumor angiogenesis, meaning it blocks cancers from building the new blood vessels they need to grow. It also stimulates natural killer cells, the frontline soldiers of your immune system, whose specific job is to identify and destroy cancer cells before they establish themselves. Melatonin production declines by up to 70% between the ages of 40 and 70. Most people over 65 produce almost negligible amounts during sleep. Your most powerful internal anti-cancer mechanism is running at a fraction of its capacity. A 2019 study from the International Agency for Research on Cancer classified night shift work which chronically disrupts sleep architecture as a probable human carcinogen, not a risk factor, a carcinogen, the same category as certain pesticides and industrial chemicals. I had a patient, Eleanor, 71 years old, from Scottsdale, Arizona, a retired nurse who was sleeping only 5 to 6 hours a night and waking frequently. Her immune panel showed severely. 2. Suppressed natural killer cell activity. We worked together on what I call a sleep recalibration protocol, a consistent 10 p.m. bedtime, complete darkness, room temperature lowered to 67 degrees, all screens off 90 minutes before bed, and a small dose of tart cherry juice at 8 p.m. for its natural melatonin precursors. Within 6 weeks, her sleep duration reached 7.5 hours consistently. At her 3-month follow-up, her natural killer cell count had increased by 47%. Her oncology team was astonished. The research is clear. Adults over 60 who consistently sleep 7 to 8.5 hours per night in proper dark, cool environments have cancer mortality rates up to 48% lower than those sleeping under 6 hours, according to a 20-year cohort study from the University of California, San Diego. This is not a minor variable. This is the master switch. To optimize your sleep for cancer protection, set a consistent bedtime and wake time even on weekends. Make your room. 2. Completely dark, cool at 2 between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit, and avoid eating within 3 hours of sleep because digestion competes with the cellular repair work your body needs to prioritize overnight. Combine your sleep optimization with daily morning sunlight exposure from the walking habit because morning light anchors your circadian rhythm and directly increases your evening melatonin output. These two habits working together create a biological environment in which cancer struggles to take hold. All of the studies referenced here are linked in the description. I encourage you to read them, share them with your doctor, and ask the questions that appointments often don't leave time for. Here's what I want you to hear as we close. You are not too old for prevention. The science does not have an age limit. Whether you are 55 or 85, whether you've had a cancer scare or never given it a thought, your body retains a remarkable capacity to heal, to defend, and to regenerate when. 2, you give it what it needs. These 5 habits, morning hydration, daily fermented foods, metabolic walking, sulforaphane-rich cruciferous vegetables, and restorative sleep are not exotic protocols. They are the conditions your biology was designed to thrive in. They cost almost nothing, they require no prescription, and every single morning you get a fresh opportunity to begin. Your independence, your quality of life, your ability to be present for the people you love that is worth 30 minutes of walking, a glass of water, and a bedtime. Don't let anyone tell you it's too late. The research says otherwise, and so do I.